All right. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited. We've got the amazing now. I'm going to get you to say it with the French accent because I love it.
Sarah Givons.
Sarah Givons. But in Aussie, we say
Givons. It's not as beautiful and romantic.
And this beauty lady here, I've just said, is like this eclectic mix of a blonde Audrey Hepburn / Coco Chanel, but ready to, oh my gosh, I'm just remembering. So guys, you may recognize her face and you may not. It depends on whether or not you are a big fan of SAS Australia, which I am. So this amazing woman was last year, wasn't it? So
yes,
I don't know.
It was.
Yeah, was it last year? So I'm just going to bring these guys up to speed because as well as being an amazing dating coach, this woman is an incredible. I wouldn't even know. Would you call yourself an athlete? Because it's like hardcore what you achieved.
Yeah, I guess it's resilience, isn't it?
Resilience.
It's definitely a practice of resilience, and they say the thinking soldier.
Oh, the thinking soldier.
Yeah, they're looking for the thinking soldier.
The thinking soldier. Okay, so guys, if you have not watched last year's SAS Australia, so what it was is SJ with about maybe 16 other regular Australians, like mums, dads, went on this show where they take you through this intense, incredible boot camp, ridiculous, where it was mental prowess, physical stamina and endurance. And barely anyone makes it through the course passing, right? Even when they did SAS Australian celebrities, there was only one celebrity that actually passed the course. So can I tell you right now, we are in the midst of greatness. I am so inspired by this woman. I was so hooked on watching this series. She's like this quiet achiever, like on camera, we didn't see much sass from you, but maybe behind the scenes, there was a bit of sass.
Yes.
So basically, she was one of two contestants that actually they passed the course. They passed her on the course. So the four, what are they called? The
4DS, so the drill sergeants. Yeah.
4 drill sergeants had this really strict criteria. Basically, no one barely makes it through. And this woman here was one of 2 people that passed the course. So, I mean, that's just an amazing achievement in of itself.
Yeah, I'm going to let that soak over me. Yeah, it honestly, I have to pinch myself because it is. It's a huge achievement. And it's so interesting that we're having this chat about NLP because there's so many parallels to my experience and what I had to channel to get through that. And it's interesting even hearing May say that I was a quiet achiever on that show because that's not me usually at all when in my day-to-day life. I wouldn't say that I'm a quiet achiever.
Well, I'd love for you to share with us because you said there are so many kind of parallels. Share with us what some of those are.
Yeah, so what I've noticed through going through this NLP course is it just gave me a lot of clarity to realize what I was actually digging into when I was in those really hardcore moments of challenge, I guess, like mentally. It was really, honestly, more of a mental challenge, that course, than it was physically. Physically, my body started to, shut down in some ways. And I had scratches all over me and like I was all cut up and blisters, and it was like, physically you go, oh my God, how can you keep going? But it was the mental battle for me. It actually brought up old meta programs from being a kid. Like this was actually the biggest challenge. So it was kind of like Tony Robbins on steroids because you're combining, focusing on your limiting beliefs coming out through these physical challenges and mental pressure, which doesn't give up, right? So you're in a constant state of discomfort. And you're forced in many ways to have to face the fear. So for me, it brought up a lot of that childhood stuff and I was able to work through it. But only in hindsight did I realize through doing this course, I was like, whoa, that's what's going on, Sarah. And that's when in that moment, you were feeling this. and then you were able to channel a different emotion to get you through the challenge. And then after the show, I experienced what, I mean, I'm just calling as a adrenaline hangover, if that's even a thing, or an emotional hangover, where I cried and cried and cried about 24 hours after I was finally out of the war zone, essentially. So that as well was very cathartic for me, and explained, you know, a lot about how I was processing things, compartmentalizing, and, you know, finding ways to pull out the lessons without causing too much trauma and damage to myself, which honestly is quite possible to do going on a show like that. You can actually create, I would say, more trauma if you don't go in there with a level head.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's amazing. And you know what I loved, what Sarah's just shared, is it was such a mental game, right? A mental challenge. And I always think about NLP in terms of, like, you know, we all have this brain, but our brain did not come with a user manual.
Yeah,
right?
That's so accurate.
And then it's kind of like NLP, all of a sudden, it's like someone handing you this user manual of how to operate this thing called our brain. And so what I loved about what you shared is you intuitively had the ability to understand that your normal way of being, which is like, you know, the loud spoken, like, let's face it, you're not shy.
Nope.
But then you can't be either if what you're teaching guys to do is how to actually build the confidence to get out there, right, and meet people. But you recognize that in this situation, this is what my read on what you just shared is, that way of being wasn't necessarily going to do you any favors, especially in the light of these drill sergeants who just want compliance, right? They don't want the out there, innovative, do your own thing, you know, be really highly creative, go off on tangents type of Sarah, which is what you need to do in your business.
Yep.
They want someone to follow the rules, be compliant, because basically your life is on the line, and the life of your teammates is on the line.
Yeah, I really like the way you've packaged that, because it was exactly that for me. At least I can't speak for anyone else, but that was for me. It was like, you know, this is a game with some really, you know, life or death kind of rules to it. So there is no room for being jovial, or well, there is when you're, like, you know, recovering, which I was definitely when we weren't in the presence of the drill sergeants. But when we were, it was like, if you didn't take this seriously, it almost shows that you don't care about someone else's life and you don't care about your own life. And that carelessness on the battlefield, you know, is unacceptable. And that was what I really channeled. It was you know, it wasn't about failure and your skill set. It was about your will to come back from the failure. So that was really the takeaway. So when I came out of that, I definitely felt that I held my head up a lot higher. That was, you know, they always say, keep your head up high, even if you failed, even if you did something and you started to beat yourself up negatively or discounted the effort that you put in. And I learned that through NLP, that I discount my achievements a lot. So even at the beginning of this chat, I was like, let me just soak that in. It is a big achievement. So I've become a lot more aware and conscious of nipping that in the butt before I discount how amazing I am, you know?
Absolutely. Oh my God. We are totally going to have to do another entire interview around this, because, so guys listening at home, NLP is a modeling methodology. This is how it came about, where John Grinder and Richard Bandler modeled out incredible therapists, psychiatrists, and looked at what they did brilliantly in their practices that got such great results, right? So NLP is like this mindset and like an attitude of a particular style of thinking that helps you model what is it that someone's doing that is creating success. So if we just, you know, with that kind of modeling mindset, listen to what Sarah just shared. First of all, in SAS Australia, she had this mindset of learning from your failures, right? And not letting your failures kind of crumble you and get you down. And so in NLP, we have a presuppositions that says there's no failure, only feedback.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm hearing from Sarah, like, well, what do I need to do differently next time? You know, how do I need to dig deeper, or what different kind of metaprogram cognitive bias do I need to kind of bring into the next challenge, whatever it might be?
Yeah, there's such a beautiful example of that. I remember it was day 4 and I got pulled into the interrogation room, and I come off the end of a pretty crappy challenge where I just kept slipping off these monkey bars. And I remember when I sat down and they started to interrogate me, the word that, or the phrase, I guess, that is my weakness, started to come out of my mouth. And this DS has just, like, as hard as he could, just boom on the table. And it was like boom, like it was like a swish kind of moment, right? From like, swish. It was like that, but it was like boom, like wake up, Sarah. Like, don't, like, he literally said, you do not say that word. And it almost just vibrated through my body. And I just got laser focused until the end of the course. I walked out of there and I took something from that where I was like, let's go. This is the moment to dig deep, because I was like in a crossroads. I was letting the negative feedback start to control me and bring me down. And that was like this big splash of cold water that got me back in the zone and back thinking positive thoughts, which got me to the end.
I even noticed the way she used her body language, right? That, like, boom, it was like this splash of water that got me focused. And then, so notice that body language of focus, which took her to the end. So if I was to unpack again with this modeling mindset around NLP, basically what the drill sergeant did by smashing his hand is, we call that a pattern interrupt, right? And so the strategy of Sarah, you know, let's say kind of not losing her grip on the monkey bars and starting the internal narrative of it's my weakness, it's my failure, before she can even complete running in NLP what we call that particular neurological strategy, someone's come in and really brutally interrupted that pattern, right? To the point where it's disrupted the pattern so much that she's just gone, her whole body's just like, oh my freaking Lord, interrupted the pattern. And then she had the sensibility to be able to go, what do I need to do differently? I'm going to have laser focus. And that took her to the end of the course. This is amazing. I love this unpacking, because just in sharing what you did that got you through, we can unpack your ontology, which is just a fancy word for like your way of being, and your epistemology, which is another big fancy word for like how you know what to do, right? And so when you look at someone who's doing something brilliant, whether it's a martial artist or a figure skater or someone getting through the show, you want to unpack, what are the belief structures? What are their internal dialogues? What are their resources? What's the identity frame that they're holding that helps them be really successful?
Yeah.
Which would be so cool. Like, you know, I imagine as a dating coach, you know, having to speak to guys around, and we haven't quite covered this in NLP yet, but covering what's the identity that they hold within themselves that's either helping or hindering them being successful in dating.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that into the conversation, because the pattern interrupt, just to finish that thought thread, is something I use as a daily practice when I socialize. And it's something I teach my clients, because a topic which they're usually very uncomfortable to bring into play is there is a sexual innuendo or a playfulness to flirt, right? They're like, oh, I can't talk about that, Sarah, I can't do that. And in my own practice of socializing, I utilize pattern interrupts a lot. Often if the conversation is going dry and it's boring, and I know it's boring for them because I know I'm bored. So generally the rule of thumb is, you know, they're going to be bored but being polite. And so to introduce a pattern interrupt, not on the scale of slamming the table, of course, but doing something with conviction, to change the direction of the flow is a skill that I often teach them. And really it's a pattern interrupt, you know, combined with a few other components, but essentially that's what it is. So that's something I teach a lot. And then coming to that new thread in terms of, I guess, the beliefs that most of my clients have, them, you know, 90% male. And one of the biggest limiting beliefs is around women that they perceive as beautiful, successful, incredible dream women that they would ideally like to date. They often, if not always, when they first come to me, have a limiting belief around this kind of human being or this angel in a way that they put on a pedestal being unobtainable. And so they separate this person from all other people instead of actually treating them the same, which actually diminishes their anxiety towards the situation, and they can then express a lot more freely and build the attraction that they really truly want.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't it funny? So they've created this representation or moving their mind of this person and put them on the pedestal. And I reckon 9 times out of 10, that incredibly gorgeous, successful woman would be running her own narrative filled with self-doubts.
100%. Yep.
Crazy. Yep. Yeah.
And that's a lesson, a core lesson that I do coach them on, because you're so consumed with your own narrative that you do often forget to externally, you know, I guess, look to other people and think, okay, wonder what they would be feeling. And making an assumption, it may or may not be true, but being able to empathize on that level from a place of equality makes you as a man stand out compared to most men, because that's an ability that usually, guys don't put the work into understanding on that level.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't that interesting? And, you know, the parallels between the dating world and even the business world, right? So like I'm in the business world working with leaders and execs. So people who are really shy to put up their hand for a pay rise, or when they ask for a pay rise, ask for a really measly amount, it's because they're running a narrative in their head that they're not worth the amount that they really want to kind of ask for, right? Or that someone who's in a higher position, like, you know, which is the same as you're dating men thinking that a woman's gorgeous, unattainable and successful. They think that someone in a higher position has got their shit together or is smarter than them. And it's not necessarily correct.
Yeah. So in the work that I do with my dating clients, it is often, if not always, changing the narrative, which is totally connected to, you know, what we do with NLP, changing that narrative, replacing it with something that, you know, they can start believing in. And I actually feel like that starts from the coach, you know, having that belief. And every guy that I have in my program or that I decide to take on, I must see their potential, because I truly have to, you know, feel both physically and emotionally that I can help them get there. And when I have that, it's remarkable to see even them feed off like a transfer of energy in that regard. And an example, because it's fresh in my mind of this, where we changed a client's narrative, where he was like really apathetic, suicidal, right? Like really, really negative thinking. And for probably a couple of months, it was just supporting and nurturing him in a very maternally caring manner. And then it was switching on and really just slamming the fist on the desk with him, which works quite well with my male clients for some strange reason. And then switching him into gear and allowing him to realize his potential. And when he did that, just because it's fresh last week, he suddenly had this beautiful experience where he went interstate, he went on a trip to meet an old flame of his, ended up having an incredibly, you know, playful, erotic experience. And he then realized that they weren't aligned anymore. So he had a tendency to attract quite manipulative, low vibrational, negative thinking individuals. And he suddenly had this just experience. And he said, Sarah, I'm not putting up with that. That's not me. I have a boundary, and actually sent this woman home so he could enjoy the rest of his time on his trip. And I just thought that that was a moment of him breaking through and voting for that new narrative and voting for himself in that moment. And it wouldn't have been able to happen if we didn't actually sit down and have that experience where we rejigged his belief system and his narrative and what was possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. You know, and what I love there and what I want to kind of draw from what Sarah has shared is a couple of things. So there's two things here in terms of how we work, how we use NLP. One is teaching you processes of what you can do with a client, right? And Sarah will share a couple of those amazing stories in a moment where she's, you know, using specific processes, doing them with the client, and the client's having an amazing change. So what you do as a coach. The second one is who you're being as a coach. And this is what I want to kind of just draw upon for the moment. So did you notice Sarah said, you know, she chooses to take on certain clients, right? And it's about seeing and really feeling and believing in their potential. And last night when I was teaching these guys, we were teaching a model on anxiety, I mentioned there's a famous hypnotherapist, Andre Weisenhofer, who in 1957, so way back when, said that the client will not actualize what the coach doesn't believe. So this is a beautiful example of Sarah as a coach believing more in her client than her client believing in himself, right? He had no belief in himself. So it's real, but it's not just about the belief around that, it's embodying that whole belief. And so then what I heard from Sarah is another kind of teaching in NLP, which is what we call the facilitation model, right? So how you facilitate as a coach. And how you need to facilitate is it's always this dance and this balance between supporting the client and challenging the client. So she did a couple of months of supporting the client, building the rapport, building the relationship, and then bam, right? The challenge. Maybe not so much like this, but without that challenge, the client's not going to shift. He might have just stayed in his mode of, you know.
Well, just to add on to that, because for this particular client, he was getting what he wanted through my support.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, very low self-esteem. I was giving all the love he needed instead of challenging him to go out and create that for himself, not to become, I don't want my clients becoming reliant on me and having to only come to me to be able to do something in their world. I want them to be completely self-sufficient and be able to go out and confidently do exactly what I'm helping them with. You know, obviously we always need a little bit more support, but that self-sufficiency is a very important value for me as a coach.
Yeah, amazing. Loving this conversation. There's so much gold here. So let's speak a little bit more about NLP. I'm really curious around what drew you to study NLP with us.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I find that the attraction to NLP, I feel just when I was younger, I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I remember doing a one-day course of NLP. And that was like my very first introduction to it. Then along my journey a few years ago, I had a mentor when I was overseas who was helping me develop a program when I was doing coaching for another business. And he practiced a lot of NLP. And he just inspired me with the way he spoke about the present state, the desired state, the map, you know, all of these little things. And I'm like, wow, I love the way he's articulating, you know, coaching and my program and how to structure it. And anyway, that sort of happened and went. And then in the current program, the business program I'm in with Brody Lee, again, it came up and I was introduced to both you, May, and Kylie Ryan. And I just thought, whoa, again, another example, a beautiful positive reference of how individuals are, honestly, I find modernizing NLP, because my first impression was like, oh, this is really kind of boring, drab, like intellectual stuff. And that's not me, right? I was just like, but then associating NLP with that mentor of mine, with you, May, and Kylie Ryan and her energy and the way that she articulates herself, I was like, oh, it got me really excited about it. So that's when I obviously started the program, and I challenged myself to approach it through a different lens. And that's how I've been able to actually implement it with my clients. Because previously I would have thought I'm incompetent to run any process with a client. It feels weird for me. It doesn't feel like that I'm that kind of coach, that was the belief system I had.
Oh, what I love about you is literally I will have taught a process on Wednesday night, and then like by Friday, Sarah's in our Facebook group sharing a client win where she's like literally just done the process she's learned 24 hours before with a client and sharing some incredible results.
I know, right? I have to throw myself in and do it. That really works well for me when I'm learning things. I can listen and practice in our integration session. But to me, it's that moment when I plunge into the water and I just go for it. And I remember one of those examples where I did that like the next day in the morning, and I had a moment, right, that fear in my chest. And I went, am I going to do it? This is a perfect moment to do the thing that's in my mind right now. And so that was my breakthrough, or my transition, I find, from, learning the knowledge and implementing it, the real change for me. And then that, the self-belief can start to grow. And, you might be a little bumpy, which, or shaky, which I still am. I would still say I'm very new to this whole space, but I'm just approaching it like a kid, I just want to go for it, and then I'll refine it. And one of the biggest breakthroughs was, I can't remember what session it was, but just letting your client know that you're going to try something different. It's not the normal. It's not something that we usually do, but should we give it a go? And like including them in the experimental process. And since adopting that attitude, I've noticed that I can more freely test things without judgment of myself and without judgment from my client. And it just feels a lot more relaxed.
Love it. And, the thing is that our clients don't know what they don't know, right? About how the process is supposed to go, what's supposed to happen, not happen, etc. So literally you could kind of do it 50% and still get an amazing result. These processes have been fine-tuned and fine-tuned and fine-tuned. So I love that you are this living, you're this living example of taking something from the intellectual knowledge realm into the embodiment realm, which is the big thing that Kylie and I really focus on and reinforce. Is it's not an intellectual, game.
And you know what? There's a beautiful parallel there, because dating, relationships, it is not an intellectual game. Yeah. And my goodness, my clients are the smartest men I've ever met in my life, more intellectually switched on than myself. And I learned so much from them. But when it comes to that embodiment realm, that is where they do hit the most resistance and the most fear. And they really realize the gap between their knowledge and their implementation. So that's a really big focus for me as a coach as well.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So share with us some of the results. I mean, obviously, keeping clients' names confidential and all of that. I'd love to hear some of the amazing results you've had using some of the NLP processes.
Yeah, so the one I was just telling you about off camera it's the freshest, it's in my mind. And it's the one I'm really enjoying, because I don't know whether we're supposed to do this, but I like to experiment. So the eliminating negative experiences process has been one that I've been just focusing on, because I really want to get a handle on it and see, test it with my clients. So I've done it with quite a few of them now. And I come from the intention where I'm taking them through this process to empower them to be able to start thinking differently with situations that, emotionally get them in the funk or get them stuck. So the first time I used that one with one of my clients, he doesn't speak a lot, he doesn't share a lot compared to me, and I'm going in there thinking he needs to give me this entertaining, engaging reaction. And he was very internal, and he just took it all in and absorbed it. And that was a really groundbreaking experience for me and for him as well, because he's just never done anything like that. He's never like created taken a feeling outside of his body and made it into a shape and given a color to it and a weight to it and a texture or anything like that. And being able to, learn a way to control his own thoughts and to process them in a healthier way. So that was like the first time I ever tried it. And then I started to get more confident with that particular process. And yeah, just recently with 2 of my clients, it's allowed them to now compartmentalize real life experiences with a much more positive outlook. And when they are by themselves, they think about this process, even though it's obviously better when you have someone facilitating it, they can tune back into that and go, okay, this is what I'm doing with that feeling. This is how strong it is. I'm going to make it really fuzzy. I'm going to push it away from myself. And they almost do like a self-meditation.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. So this has been like a huge thing that I've implemented in my coaching business. And it's just one of those examples where I can honestly and truly say that it's having a fantastic impact on them, being able to be self-efficient. And if it's really bad, we do it together and we really get into the nitty-gritty of it. But they have so much more freedom is what I've experienced through that particular process.
So, and it's just like you were saying before, like you don't want your clients to be reliant on you. You want them to have the tools.
Yeah.
That if they have a bad experience, they know that they can clear that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I want. I know that some of these processes, it's really tough to do by yourself. But when you tune into that subconscious, because what I've learned through this course is, we are that facilitator. We're there. We're guiding them on a journey into their subconscious to rejig a couple of things, dial some things down, like amplify some things here and just do a little bit of maintenance, in their garden of the subconscious. And that's what creates the external shifts. So for me, and there's so many more things for me to learn, May. I'm like I said, I still feel like such a beginner, where I can just implement them and make sure that they are effective. Like I always ask the client, I'm like, how was that for you? Like honest conversation.
Yeah.
So I get that feedback and I go, okay, cool. That's interesting. How could I, add a little bit of spice to this process where it makes more sense for my particular niche or my particular client's challenges and things like that. So it's just expanded my toolkit as a coach, to be honest. I'm just like, whoa, Sarah, there's a lot more here.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And like you're just doing like the first level of training right now.
No.
Like there's like so much more.
Yes. Well, it's exciting. And it's also like, oh my God, like, my personality is like, I want to do it all and I want it all at once. So this has been a big lesson for me to take a breath, slow down, Sarah. I don't need to learn every single process and feel, 100% confident with it. I just need to, because I think there was in one session, a lot of the processes, they have a similar effect, but they're just different ways of doing it.
Yeah,
and so, I've been really just allowing that to soak into my attitude towards this work. So I don't get overwhelmed. It's like, it's okay. It's okay, yeah. Sarah, you've got this.
What I love about Sarah, guys, is her ability to be really action orientated. And so, in NLP, we teach meta programs, which, when I'm teaching business people, I call it cognitive biases. So what I'm seeing in Sarah is part of what makes her a really great coach are a number of different meta programs or cognitive biases. So one of them is that you're action orientated. So what that means is you're not spending lots and lots and lots of time thinking and reflecting and going, oh, should I, like your high initiation, right? As opposed to some people can get stuck in ruminating and thinking and reflecting, but aren't actually putting things into action. So I think high action is one of them. And there's a real level of, my sense is that when you're learning something, can you hear how Sarah's almost thinking about how can I practically use this in my business with my clients to help them, right? So because I get what you're saying by, like, I've seen kind of videos and things about NLP where it just feels like oh my gosh.
Yeah, like it's a lot. The first NLP book I ever read was Richard Bandler's book, like that colorful one. It's
Yeah.
like a big book, Introduction to NLP.
Well done you.
And even that was a lot.
Yeah, right. So I'd love to hear about like if like we're talking to people who might be curious and interested in studying NLP, right? And studying NLP with us. What would you say is our main point of difference?
Oh my God. Oh my gosh.
Like, why should people come to us and, not someone else?
Well, yeah, look, my experience, again, like I was exposed, my first experience of NLP, very boring, drab mentor. Like it just did not light my heart up. I was not feeling inspired. And I've already mentioned this in our chat, but May and Kylie Ryan have this energy about them. Like they approach every process and every framework with this just like it's like a childlike excitement. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's the point of difference for me, because it can feel quite heavy and like there's a lot to learn. And then when you have a mentor like May, who I just love the way that you describe things, and Kylie Ryan, suddenly, no, it's not that difficult. You're right where you're supposed to. And it just like reassures you, and you challenge us all at the right times individually. So for me, it's definitely the way that you coach NLP. It's your way that is so unique to both of you. So I honestly don't think I would have done a full course unless I connected with both of you as individuals. So yeah, and you can see even my reaction as soon as you started asking that question, May. I'm just like period. It's you guys. It's both of you. It's the way you show up as coaches, because I'm modeling myself, against you. I'm like, oh, I could see myself doing that, or I love the way that they describe that. And so that really helps me, being someone of, that likes to initiate. I just take a little gold nugget each time I am in your presence, to be honest. It's kind of weird, but I'm like, when I'm doing a process, I've got you in the back of my mind. And if I had a boring mentor in the back of my mind, I wouldn't bring as much energy and passion to it as what I get from being mentored by both of you. It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
It really is.
I think this is why I love this conversation, because I can see how you just take an idea or you see something, and then the instant embodiment and implementation, which we know that when you continually implement and embody, that's what leads to the mastery, right?
Yes.
And your clients are going out there in the world and are doing things differently and showing up differently because of your commitment to your own mastery. Yes.
And I've noticed that so much, May. Like if I'm not switched on, I'm not showing up, my clients don't.
Yeah.
In a way, even though, they're not modeling how, to be a woman like me, but they're modeling the energy, and they're actually going, okay, cool. Like, Sarah always talks about this or does it like this and has that passion behind the words. So now it starts to rub off as just an extra X factor, I guess, for when they go out and practice, that little like chip on the shoulder where you go, boom, you're a part of something bigger. Like a lot of my clients reference like being a part of a team. Like they feel like we're a team. Do you know what I mean? That it's not just we're a group of people or a community that just comes together to do one thing. It's like, this is my team. And so that, like when both of you are in the back of my mind, I'm in the back of their mind when they go out there and they're being courageous.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I love this, it's really shaping how your clients are showing up, not what are the right words to say when you meet a woman and all of those kind of things, but it's actually what's the energy that they're bringing. And I can almost start seeing this transmission of them soaking up this playfulness, right, this cheekiness. And who doesn't love that? Like that energy of playfulness and cheekiness, who doesn't love it?
Yeah, well, exactly. I honestly, that's something that I'm really leaning into at the moment, because it's like a default to bring in humor or play in as many ways as possible to interactions or experiences or whatever it is. And it's really a truly, like, I would say, superpower, You know, you don't need to be joking. It's not that you're joking about everything, but it just brings this, it's like a buzz. Like especially with dating, it allows you to be able to talk about topics that ordinarily you wouldn't be able to touch on because they're taboo or they're too serious. Whereas a little bit of humor, I know that we're playing. So both people, we're just having a little joke, you know, but really you're finding out incredible things about yourself and the other person. And when you're dating, that's what you want to do. I don't want to go on a date and feel like I'm being interviewed. And I sure as hell don't think the other person wants to go on a date and feel that you're being interviewed, you know? Have you been divorced? How many kids do you have? Where do you want to live? Like, do you want to have a dog? How you know, like, versus, let's play a game. All right. Would you want to have a cat, a dog, or a guinea pig, right? Like, you know, you're changing the how or the intention. And like I said, the energy behind your interactions rather than the what, you know, the literal or the logical.
We so need to do an interview series with you where I model out and unpack all of your unconscious strategies, and then you can write a book.
Oh my God, yes. Yes, mate. Because I know, like, in the back of my mind as well, I'm like, May's watching me and how I do this. And you know what? That was actually what led me to apply for SAS at, 10:30 at night, sitting in bed going, yeah, all right, I'll do that, because these are like very emotionally intellectual, like ex-special forces soldiers. And I was like, on the journey of discovering yourself, it's so interesting to get such incredible feedback about, well, what is functional, what is happening with me, because I just want to share it with people. I would love to live in a world where people just owned whatever their unique IP was, or I don't know the big word you used, but like how they go about their life.
I love that. Unique IP. I'm totally going to use that in psychology and epistemology.
Yes, epistemology. Okay. Because to me, success is not if my client gets in a relationship. Success is if my client expresses with absolute confidence what their unique IP is. Because that is the most attractive version of themselves, and that will attract their dream partner. Not seeking the dream partner. It all starts with your unique IP. And that's from my personal experience. I just every day work on that. How can Sarah express Sarah more and congruently and confidently and without shame? So
I love it. Love it. Love it. So that's your branding. Clearly, it's not about helping men date. Like, what you're really all about in terms of your purpose is helping people, and I know it's mainly men, but helping people express with absolute confidence and certainty their unique IP.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And that's true, mate, because I have a little bit of a complex, people go, Sarah's a dating coach, but I don't find that I'm a typical dating coach. I really don't, because I don't define success on how many women my clients have gotten with or are dating. It's just, so there's been a little bit of because to attract my clients, that is what it's what they think they want.
Yes.
Then when they get started, what they really want is something different. So
yes,
it's that marketing battle, right? Like you attract them in.
That's the thing about NLP is people come to you because they think they want a particular result, but because it's about transformation, right? The results that they do get, they never actually fathomed or thought of when they came and saw you, because they didn't know what was possible. All right. So your guy who said no to that woman and sent her home so that he could enjoy himself is starting to break the pattern of neediness, of always feeling like he needed to be with someone. Or I'm just assuming that might have been an old pattern.
Oh yeah.
And now what's starting to emerge is a new identity, a new self of what it feels like to just enjoy his own company and do things for himself. So I can't even imagine what else is going to open up for him.
Yep.
Because of
he got a promotion as soon as he let go. He got this job, this project that he'd been wanting for 6 months, May. And I said to him, I was like, in my mind as well, I'm just like, this is so much more than just you stepping into who you are. The universe rewards you when you let go and when you make that decision. He declared it. He let go. He got back on a dating app. It was this moment. And the very next day, his boss said, hey, you got that project you wanted. For 6 months, he'd been complaining and thinking, I'm not going to get it. I'm going to look for different jobs. Boom. It was just alignment.
Amazing. So what he didn't realize is that the change in one area of his life then translates to every single other area of your life.
Mm.
So good.
It is beautiful because, you know, May, you obviously work in the business space. You know, most of my guys are either, you know, pretty high up. They're doctors, software engineers, they've got their own business, or they're managers or amazing sales guys. Like when they're off in their role or they're off in their business, almost always they're off in their dating and their social life. So a lot of the time I do end up having more focused sessions around business, how they're showing up. And we do a lot of intricate, I guess, interpersonal communication methods so they can get out of their funk there, because it always translates into their social, like how they're showing up when they're socializing and going on dates.
Amazing. I cannot wait to see how you evolve. Like, just there are going to be big things happening for you.
Oh yeah.
Things like, you know, the more and more you kind of master not just NLP, but master the more you get to unlock and express your unique IP, the bigger the changes you can be. Like, it just feels so big.
It's very expansive. It was such an uncanny moment yesterday. I've just been getting into sort of manifestation and crystals and stuff. Like, I'm like, ooh, you know, again, just something new. And I was sitting writing a manifestation script and thinking about the future and really like modeling it and like, you know, believing that I was already there. And then I jumped on because I didn't know what we were doing yesterday in NLP, and it was, oh, we're doing manifestation and like, you know, timeline, you know, like designing a goal for the future that's already happened. I was like, whoa. It was just the most perfect timing, and it does.
I love that how you hold, like, you know, when I was doing the thing and like you feel like you were like, it was there and happening.
I was like, I don't think anyone really knew, but you probably noticed it. Yeah, I was just like, yes. And then when I was doing it, I just felt it like so much, and it was a really magical moment. And again, like, it's that alignment with yourself and just like, you know, going for it, and then it happens. It's beautiful.
But even more than that, so guys watching at home, when I was taking people through the creating your future visualization, it's like stepping into the picture and bringing it to life. And Sarah's whole body was just like literally vibrating off the roof, right? But here's the thing, thing that you guys may not explicitly know, is that in terms of manifestation, you've got to be vibrating, like your neurology's got to be vibrating and holding a certain vibration. And if I were to test into what level you are vibrating on in terms of David Hawkins' work, Scale of Consciousness, I reckon you would have been right up there, right? You were totally vibrating joy, which is at least 600, right? So the very fact that your body was literally vibrating and your nervous system was holding that energy and vibration actually makes it like the manifestation's already done.
Oh, it was.
You know what I mean?
I couldn't contain myself. If it wasn't for a little bit of a program running about like embarrassment and judgment from others, I would have been like jumping up in my office. Like, I was just like, yes. I was like, yes. I was like yelling, and I was like, you know, like I was talking to myself. It was amazing. I was just like, yeah.
And full permission to play full out and do that, right? Because you're there to serve you and your greater community and your clients.
Yep.
And
I was inspired. I think it was B. Like, I remember a while back doing an exercise and watching her do it, and she was just so visceral. Like, she was just like really feeling like and letting something go, and that gave me permission on one front, because I am influenced by groups a lot. And then it was like, that's what it's about. Like, you got to commit to whether if you're letting something go. Really, like, you got to let it go, right? Like, you know, or if you're doing something like that, I was really feeling into the words you were saying, like, and that just, I feel like I had another 10-20% that I could have released.
I loved it. I love it.
That's something, though, on a personal level that you know, NLP is allowing me to you know, step up to in terms of being a coach, and actually, you know, during the time of being in this program, I've hired a 6-person team in my business. Like, prior to that, I was one person. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've really just, the boundary has really broadened, and now it's like, Sarah, you're stepping up. You have a team to inspire. You have, you know, new goals to hit. So it's calling me to lead and to step up a lot more. And so the manifestation and thinking about my future is becoming a lot more important to me, because it's not just me now. It's my family, my team.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh, incredible. It has been, and this was supposed to be a 20-minute interview. You've been so generous with your time and your energy. This is just absolutely gold. I cannot tell you how much energy I have from this conversation.
I know.
First conversation of many, many more to come.
Yes, please. I feel it as well. It's really special. And I just thank you, and I thank Kylie Ryan for reigniting my passion for NLP and for expanding my toolkit as a coach, because prior to this, I was closed off. I was like, nah, Sarah only coaches this way. This is how Sarah is, right? Like a little kid, I was like, really scared. And now that I'm in the sand pit, I'm like, whoa, let me try that toy. Let me do that. It's a completely different experience. So yeah, that wouldn't have been possible if I didn't allow myself to come into this beautiful community. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Oh, well, we're just so proud and inspired by you. And I cannot wait until I get the message that your goals have been realized. And I cannot wait to see what's happening for you in 6-12 months time. Like, it's going to go gangbusters.
It's already happened, mate. It's already happened in my mind. That's why I'm just like walking around like, yeah, amazing. Thank you. This was wonderful.
Ah, awesome.